My name's Aaliyah, and welcome back to another reading vlog. Today, we're starting off an ARC vlog. So I wanted to tell you about some ARCs that I recently got from some publishers. So if you don't know, an ARC is an advanced reader copy, which basically just means I got an early copy of a book from a publisher. So I got a few that I want to read, so I think I'm going to read like 2 or 3 for this vlog, and I really want to get to Velvet Was the Night by Silvia Moreno Garcia and Summer Suns by Lee Mandelo. So I've already started Summer Suns. I'm only like 30% of the way through. I'm reading it on my phone as like an ebook, so it's a little bit hard to tell exactly where I am, but I think I'm about 30%. So Summer Suns is pretty good so far. It's about this guy named Andrew and his adopted brother slash best friend recently died, and his death was ruled as a suicide, but Andrew doesn't really believe it was a suicide, so he is moving into the house that his brother Eddie lived in, and he's meeting his friends because Eddie was in this grad school program in a different state down south. So Andrew is going to where Eddie was and staying in his house and living with his roommate and meeting his friends, and he's trying to figure out if maybe one of his friends killed him or if Eddie got into some bad things or something and somehow someone else killed him or what. So Andrew's trying to figure out what happened to Eddie, and it's a lot different than I thought it would be. For some reason I thought that Summer Suns was YA, but it's not, it's adult. And it's actually a lot like Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. So if you've read that, I think you should check this out because you'll probably like it. So Summer Suns is kind of this Southern Gothic, dark academia ghost book, which is pretty cool. So it definitely has Southern Gothic vibes because it's set in the South in the summer, like summer, early fall, because it's the beginning of a new semester. And it also has this like dark academia vibe with the university, and the friends that Eddie has are really interesting. There's this group of guys, and they're all white guys, and they're rich, and they drive these fancy cars, and he was kind of hanging out with them, and they kind of have a weird reputation on campus. I don't know, it's kind of like a racist trust fund baby vibe. I don't know, it's strange. So they have this like almost like a gang of white dudes who like to go and like party and do cocaine together and stuff. So I don't know, Andrew is kind of getting caught up in that and trying to figure out what Eddie was doing with these people and why he would choose to hang out with them, because Eddie was a really good student, so he kind of was like balancing these two different lives, sort of, if you will. But yeah, and there are ghosts in this book. Andrew can see ghosts, so that's kind of where the Ninth House vibes come in, like both set on a college campus, both the main characters can see ghosts, that kind of a deal. But it is kind of unclear so far if the ghosts are more like metaphysical and more related to Andrew's grief, or if they're actually legit spirits and ghosts that are haunting him. So that kind of remains to be seen. But yeah, another big factor in this book is Andrew's grief. So he's really grieving hard for the loss of his friend, and so he definitely has a lot of moments where he's really upset, and he may not be the most trustworthy narrator because he is so down in his grief and depression over the loss of his friend, and he's trying to kind of process that grief and maybe not always doing it in the healthiest way. So that's also a thing that's going on here. And there's also a lot of drug use and alcohol use and things like that going on in this book with Andrew and the other guys and that sort of thing. So just be aware of that if you want to read this. But yeah, it's definitely interesting so far. I'm interested to see where it goes. I think maybe, I don't know, I kind of have some theories about Eddie's death, but there's still a lot of unknowns. I think there's some things we still don't know about Eddie's old roommate and his old friends and about the graduate program that he was in. So that's all interesting. There's also a lot of stuff about cars in this book. So if you are interested in like cars and racing and like fancy cars, that kind of thing, this might also be interesting for you. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And I'll probably update you when I've read some more of this, or maybe if I start Velvet Was the Night soon, which I'd like to do because I need to get to that soon. But yes, and Velvet Was the Night comes out in August, I think August 17th, and Summer Sons comes out September 28th. So look out for those because I think they're both going to be really good. And also, thank you to Tor for sending me an arc of Summer Sons. I really appreciate it. It was very nice of you to do that. It's very exciting. So yeah, I will update you in a bit. They're so loud. Hi, babe. He's a lively little thing. I have an update for you. So I read some more of Summer Sons. I'm about 70% of the way in now, and I have thoughts. So I'm just going to tell you what my thoughts are. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the last clip or not, but this book is very queer. So we have a trans character who's one of the main characters, and we have a polyamorous relationship, and there's multiple guys in this book who are either gay or are kind of discovering their sexuality, and they think that they might be gay and they're trying to kind of like navigate that. So that's a really cool aspect of this book. But I like that it's similar to Ninth House with like the dark academia vibes and the ghosts that the main character like runs into on and off campus. And it's also similar to Hurricane Season in the discussions of queerness and how like the repression of queerness can almost like breed violence in its own way. So the ghosts in this book could be seen as like a metaphor for Andrew's grief over the loss of his friend, or they could be seen as like more tangible ghosts. But there's also this discussion of like Andrew trying to figure out his sexuality and trying to figure out if he's gay or if he's straight like he always thought he was, and also kind of trying to figure out how his possible queerness and Eddie's possible queerness factors into this situation and may or may not have led to Eddie's death. So I just like the discussion of these men, because a lot of the characters in here are college age, so they're like between 21 and like 25 or so, I'd say. So some of these men are, it seems like they're gay. There's a lot of characters in here who insinuate that other characters might be gay, and that kind of leads to some fights and violence and stuff. But it's interesting to see the main character Andrew kind of thinking about his sexuality and like stepping back from it now that his friend has passed away, and kind of analyzing his own feelings and his relationship with his friend Eddie, and trying to like dissect that and think about, oh, like, were we just friends, or were we maybe more than that, and we just didn't ever talk about it or didn't ever want to think about it because they were raised in this really like strict Southern society where if you're not straight and white, you kind of get treated like shit, frankly. So that's really interesting, and it's interesting to see these men who it seems like they are repressing their gay feelings towards each other in this friend group, and how it's almost like it causes a lot of tension, and they sort of retaliate against people who insinuate that they're queer, even when they are kind of suspecting it themselves and just trying not to let that side of them out. So that's interesting. That was also a theme that was kind of explored in hurricane season, and I think that that's really interesting. But anyways, that's definitely a thing that's going on in this book. So if that is interesting to you, then maybe you should check this out. But yeah, this book is definitely really interesting. I'm really invested in the characters, especially Andrew. I really like him as a character, even though he's definitely like morally gray. Like, he's not necessarily a good person, but I like him as a character. And I think that this is a really good book, honestly. It also has kind of an interesting writing style and voice to it. Like, I think it's a little more maybe like blunt than a lot of people might like. Like, this book may not be for everybody just because of the way that it's written, but I think that the voice in here really makes it feel real, because it is told from the perspective of like a 21-year-old college student. So, you know, that just makes it more real, I feel like. But yes, that's kind of where I'm at. It's really good. I really like the mystery aspects too. Like, it seems like every few pages there's like a new tidbit of information that you get, and I feel like I'm suspecting like everybody, and I'm still not really sure who did it. I thought I kind of had it figured out, and now I don't think I actually have it figured out. But I think it's definitely a good mystery. There's definitely a lot of paranormal, ghost, spooky stuff going on. There's a lot of discussion of racism also, and how that plays into the university. And it's just interesting because there's a lot of, this book's kind of like an onion. There's a lot of layers going on here. There's like the murder aspect of it, the murder mystery, and like the exploration of queerness, and discussions of race, and discussions of how a lot of these like old money white families that are living in this town, and it's also set in Tennessee, by the way. It's set in Nashville. So these old money kind of white families in Nashville have these like long historical like lines, like their heritage, their bloodlines or whatever. And some of these families live in the houses that used to be plantation houses, which is disturbing. But it's interesting to see Andrew kind of explore these places and meet these people, and it's like he can feel the like ghostly presence of all the people who died on these properties and stuff over time, between like the fact that it was a plantation and just like generations of these families. It's really interesting, and it's interesting to see the exploration of how like generational trauma and racism and violence have kind of bred this culture in this book, and it's dark, and it's kind of got this like dark and gritty vibe to it, but I'm really enjoying it. I still have no idea what's going to happen at the end, but I hope it has a good ending. Like, I really want the best for Andrew and these other characters, so hopefully it'll be good. But I still have no idea where the mystery's going, so we shall see. But yeah, I'll probably update you when I finish it. And I'm also thinking about making some muffins, so if I do some baking, then I'll probably include that in here too. Why not? I haven't really showed you guys that yet, but I also really like baking. It's kind of my other hobby, like outside of reading. So yeah, I might include that in here too, if that's interesting to you. But yeah, I will update you again in a little bit. Back with another update. So it's been a little bit since I updated you, and I have now finished Summer Suns by Mandelo, and I'm gonna give it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was gothic and spooky and queer, and I loved it. So I think the main things I really liked about it were like the spooky southern setting, and the vibes of this book were super cool. Like all of the descriptions of it being like summer in the south and it being really hot, and you know, like moving into starting at a new university, and the ghost stuff, and talking about like these old plantation houses that the main character is seeing around, and that kind of thing was just super cool. It was really fun. I also really liked the characters. The main character, Andrew, is very like morally gray, but he grows a lot through the course of the story, and I really liked his character development. There's a few times where he was kind of in situations where I wasn't sure what he was going to do, if he was going to like fall back into his old patterns or not. But I really liked the way that he grew and kind of learned more about himself. It was really sweet. And also the male romance in here, dude, I was living for it. I was totally here for it. So if you like male romances and you're looking for something spooky and queer and gothic and fun, especially a book for the summer, this is perfect. I think you should definitely check it out. It was a great time. Also, I just found out that the author is trans, so if you're looking for a new queer author to check out, maybe look into Mandelo, because I think his writing style is really interesting. There's a really strong voice in this story too, so it really felt like it was being told from a college student's point of view. There's also drinking and drug use and some sexual content in here, so just be aware of that if you're going into it. It's not young adult, it's definitely adult. A lot of the main characters are in grad school, so it's definitely like got adult themes and vibes and stuff, so just be aware of that if you're going into this. But yeah, I definitely recommend it. It was honestly really fantastic. I haven't read a lot of 5-star books this year, and I think this is one that was definitely a lot better than I expected going in. So thank you very much to Tor for sending me this ARC. I don't know if I would pick this book up if I hadn't gotten approved for the ARC so soon, so thank you very much for that. I also got another book that I just started, which is Strange Beasts of China, so thank you to Libro FM for sending me the advanced listener copy of that. So I just started listening to the audiobook of this at work yesterday, and I got like 40% of the way in just while I was working yesterday, and then I listened to a little bit of it today at work as well, and it's interesting. So I heard about this one from Kat from Biblio Obscura. Her channel is really interesting. I'll leave her link down below. She reads a lot of like translated books and queer books and things I haven't heard of before, so she said that this was really good, so I thought that I would try this audiobook out, and I'm enjoying it so far. It's definitely different from other things that I've read. It's a translated book, and it was originally written in Chinese, and it's about these magical beasts that are living in a fictional city in China, and the main character is this woman who is like an ex-cryptozoologist who became a writer, and so she writes romance books, and she also writes about these mythical, well, some of them are mythical and some of them are in fact still around, these different beasts. So the beasts are often like, they look kind of like humans, but they have like different colored skin or like different colored eyes, or they have like claws or different things. And so they live like amongst the humans in the city, and a lot of the humans kind of look down on the beasts, and each of the different beasts like look different, and they have different roles in society and different like legends that surround them and things like that. So the whole book is like about this woman and her encounters with all these different beasts and the stories that she writes about them. So each chapter is about a different species of beast. So the whole thing kind of feels like a short story collection, except it's all one novel, and so each chapter kind of feels like its own short story, but it has this like running thread of the main character's life. So I'm not actually sure what her name is. I'm not sure if it's ever actually stated what her name is, but this lady. So she's a writer, and so she kind of ends up in these different situations where these different creatures want her to write about their species. So that's kind of what's going on with that. It's definitely interesting. It has a very like lyrical writing style. It reminds me a lot of Niveau, so I think if you liked Empress of Salt and Fortune in that series, then maybe you should check this one out, because it's very similar in my opinion in terms of like writing style and having this theme of like the importance of stories. So that's cool. But it's definitely kind of a strange book as well. There's a lot of death, and there's kind of this, it's kind of like each story is like a little fable too, which is kind of cool. So it always seems like at the beginning of the story, the main character kind of tells you what she knows about this kind of beast, and then by the end it's like she's learned more about how the beasts operate and their different relationships that they have with humans and with each other and all that kind of stuff. So by the end you get like a totally different view on this kind of beast. So that's kind of what's going on there. I think right now it's sitting at like a 3.5 or a 4-star for me, and I have like 2 hours left of the audiobook, I think. So yeah, it's a really good audiobook too. I really enjoyed listening to it at work. So yeah, the narration is definitely a lot like Empress of Salt and Fortune. Yeah, so if you liked the audiobooks for that series, then you'll probably like this one too. But yeah, I'm gonna go finish the audiobook and I will talk to you later. Hello, it's time to wrap up this vlog. So I have now finished The Strange Beasts of China, and I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. It is a little bit of a weird book, like I said earlier. I think the last few chapters were a little bit more like chaotic and confusing than the earlier books or the earlier chapters in the story. But I still enjoyed them. It was very entertaining, and I think the last couple chapters were a little bit strange, but the very end kind of wrapped everything up and explained some things, so I liked that a lot. And I think my main thing that I thought was weird about this story is that the main character lady has this professor from the university that she used to go to that she is like pretty close with, and it's kind of weird because she like calls him a lot, and it kind of seems like they have a strange relationship. Like she has these stories about like them getting in fights and like yelling at each other and stuff, but then it's also like maybe they have like a father-daughter relationship thing going on, but he's also like kind of evil and like does some things surrounding some of the beasts that are like kind of sketchy decisions. So I don't know, he's in the cryptozoology department at the university, so he like researches these beasts and stuff, but I don't know if his research is really like ethical or not. So that whole relationship is kind of weird, and it's kind of explained at the end, but I still didn't really like the professor as a character. I don't know, maybe we just needed to see more of like his motivations and stuff, because everything's from the main character lady's point of view, so we don't really know like what was going through the professor's head and stuff. So that's one thing I didn't really like, but I think it was definitely an interesting book, and there's definitely some like underlying themes of like environmentalism and talking about how governments like try to control people and stuff like that, because this is set in China, and so there's definitely some like commentary on Chinese society in here, which is kind of cool, but it's kind of like done subtly underneath the kind of like mythical layer of the interactions between the beasts and the humans. But yeah, so I really enjoyed that for the most part. The audiobook was really good. I definitely recommend that if you're looking for one. But yes, thank you to Libro.fm for sending me that. It was nice to listen to that at work. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you could consider subscribing and liking this video, I would really appreciate it. It makes me feel very appreciated and loved. But yes, also I will have some more videos out soon. Somehow I ended up doing like multiple vlogs at the same time, so there's definitely going to be more vlogs and probably some like book recommendation videos and stuff like that. If you have any ideas for videos you'd like to see me do, leave that in the comments down below. I would love to have some input from you guys, and until next time, I will see you in the next video. Bye!